What happens when Joaquin Phoenix, one of Hollywood's most intense and unpredictable actors, sits across from Joy Behar on live television and refuses to play by the rules? Before we dive into this explosive moment, make sure to hit that subscribe button on Stage View, like this video, and drop a comment below, because what you're about to witness isn't just an interview, it's a collision. The studio lights hum softly, almost deceptively calm, as the cameras glide into position. The familiar set of The View looks as polished as ever, bright, inviting, designed to feel safe. But beneath the surface, there's a tension that no one can quite explain. Maybe it's the energy Joaquin Phoenix brings with him. Maybe it's the reputation he's built. Unfiltered, unapologetic, impossible to predict. The hosts exchange quick glances as he's introduced. Applause rises from the audience, warm but curious. Joaquin walks out, not with the polished charm of a typical celebrity guest, but with something heavier, something quieter. His expression is unreadable, his posture relaxed but guarded, like a man who's already decided he's not here to entertain. He sits. A brief pause. Joy Behar leans forward, smiling in that familiar, slightly mischievous way. She's done this thousands of times. Controlled chaos is her comfort zone. "Well, Joaquin," she begins, her tone light but probing, "you've always been, let's say, an unconventional presence in Hollywood." A ripple of laughter moves through the audience. Joaquin doesn't laugh. Instead, he tilts his head slightly, eyes locking onto Joy. Not aggressively, but with an intensity that immediately shifts the energy in the room. "What does that mean?" he asks quietly. The question lands heavier than expected. Joy chuckles, brushing it off. "Oh, come on. You know what I mean. You've had your moments, your interviews, your performances, even your speeches. People never quite know what to expect." Another beat. Joaquin leans back slightly, his fingers interlacing as he studies her. "Maybe that says more about what people expect than about me." The audience murmurs. It's subtle, but something has shifted. This isn't the usual back and forth. This isn't playful. Joy raises an eyebrow, still smiling, but now there's a flicker of challenge behind it. "Well, people expect honesty. And sometimes you've made them uncomfortable." A pause stretches between them. The kind of silence that television usually edits out, but this is live. There's nowhere to hide. Joaquin nods slowly. "Yeah, I think that's true." Another silence. And then, unexpectedly, he leans forward. "But why is that a bad thing?" The question cuts through the studio like a blade. The audience quiets. Even the other hosts shift in their seats. Joy inhales slightly, adjusting her posture. It's not necessarily bad, but there's a difference between being honest and being confrontational. Joaquin's gaze doesn't waver. Is there? Now the tension is undeniable. The cameras catch every micro-expression. Joy's tightening smile, the slight narrowing of Joaquin's eyes, the audience leaning forward as if pulled by gravity. Joy lets out a small laugh, but it doesn't carry the same ease as before. "You're doing it right now." A few scattered laughs echo, but they fade quickly. Joaquin doesn't smile. "No," he says softly. "I'm asking questions." The words hang in the air. One of the other hosts jumps in, attempting to lighten the mood. "So, Joaquin, let's talk about your latest project." But Joaquin raises a hand gently, not rude but firm. "I think this is more interesting." The audience gasps quietly but audibly. This isn't how the show works. Guests don't redirect the conversation. Guests don't take control. But Joaquin Phoenix just did. Joy's smile fades, just a fraction. She leans back, crossing her arms slightly. "All right," she says. "Let's talk about it." The challenge is clear now. Joaquin nods. "You said people feel uncomfortable. I'm curious, do you think that's because of what I say or because of what it reflects?" The question lands like a stone in water, ripples spreading across the set. Joy pauses longer this time. For a split second, the practiced rhythm of daytime television falters. "Well," she says finally, choosing her words carefully, "sometimes it feels like you're criticizing people, or the industry, or even the audience." Joaquin nods again, as if considering that deeply. "Maybe," he says. "But isn't that part of being honest? Or do we only want honesty when it's comfortable?" The audience reacts, some nodding, some shifting uncomfortably. The tension is no longer just between Joaquin and Joy. It's in the room. It's in every seat. Joy leans forward again, her tone sharpening slightly. "There's a way to communicate without alienating people. And there's a way to avoid saying anything real," Joaquin replies, just as quickly. The moment hits like a spark to dry wood. A collective intake of breath. The other hosts exchange glances, unsure whether to intervene or let it unfold. The producers backstage are undoubtedly scrambling, but on screen, the moment is electric. Joy's expression tightens. Not angry, but focused. Engaged. "You think this show doesn't say anything real?" she asks. Joaquin shrugs lightly. "I think a lot of shows like this, they create the illusion of conversation. But it's controlled. Safe." A murmur spreads through the audience again, this time louder. Joy lets out a short laugh, but there's an edge to it now. "Safe? You think this is safe?" Joaquin's gaze sweeps across the panel, then back to her. "Isn't it?" The question lingers. And for the first time, Joy doesn't answer immediately. The silence stretches, thick and heavy, as if the entire room is holding its breath. Somewhere in the audience, someone whispers. A camera shifts slightly, catching the tension from a different angle. The usual rhythm of the show has completely dissolved. This isn't an interview anymore. It's something else. Joy finally leans in, her voice lower now, more deliberate. "You're sitting here on national television, saying this show isn't real. That it's safe, but you agreed to come on. So what does that say about you?" A sharp moment. Joaquin's lips press together, just briefly. Then he nods, almost approvingly. "That's a fair question." He pauses, and for a moment, it looks like he might step back, soften the tone, shift the energy. But he doesn't. "It says I'm curious," he continues. "Curious about whether something real can actually happen here." The words land with a weight that no one can ignore. The audience is completely silent now. Joy studies him, her expression unreadable. The playful banter is gone. What remains is something sharper, more unpredictable. "Well," she says slowly, "you've definitely made it interesting." A faint smile flickers across Joaquin's face, but it doesn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm not trying to make it interesting," he says. "I'm trying to make it honest." And just like that, the energy shifts again, deeper this time, more volatile. Because now, it's not just about a disagreement. It's about truth, and whether anyone in that room is ready to face it. The silence doesn't break all at once, it fractures. A cough from somewhere in the audience. A chair shifting. The faint rustle of tension spreading like a ripple through the studio. The illusion of daytime ease is gone now, replaced by something raw, unpredictable. Joy Behar doesn't look away from Joaquin Phoenix. Not this time. Her posture straightens, shoulders squared, not defensive but resolute. She's been in this seat long enough to recognize when a conversation crosses from entertainment into something far more dangerous. And she doesn't retreat from it. "So let's be honest then," she says, her voice steady but edged with steel. "You're sitting here suggesting that what we do, what millions of people watch every day, is somehow artificial." A few audience members nod. Others glance at each other, uncertain. Joaquin exhales slowly, as if grounding himself. His hands rest loosely together, but his gaze remains sharp, unwavering. "I'm saying it's structured," he replies. "There's a difference." Joy tilts her head. "Structure isn't the enemy of truth." "No," Joaquin agrees. "But it can be the enemy of spontaneity, of vulnerability." One of the co-hosts leans in, attempting to bridge the gap. "But Joaquin, this is live television. There's only so much unpredictability you can allow before things." "Before things what?" Joaquin interrupts, not raising his voice, but cutting cleanly through hers. She pauses, caught mid-thought. "Before things get real," he finishes. The audience reacts again, some murmurs, a few quiet claps quickly stifled. Joy lets out a breath through her nose, almost a laugh, but not quite. "You keep using that word, real. As if the rest of us are just pretending." Joaquin's expression softens for the first time, but not in a way that diffuses the tension. It almost deepens it. "I think everyone pretends," he says, "just to different degrees." That lands harder than anything before. Joy leans back slightly, studying him like she's recalibrating. Not just her response, but her entire approach. "And you don't," she challenges. A beat. Joaquin nods. "Of course I do." The admission catches her off guard. The audience too. "But I try not to when it matters," he continues. And this feels like it matters. There's something different in his tone now. Less confrontational. More personal. For a moment, the room shifts again, not softer, but more intimate. As if the walls of the studio have closed in, and this is no longer a broadcast, but a private reckoning happening in public. Joy notices it. She leans forward, her voice quieter now. "Why does this matter so much to you?" Joaquin hesitates. It's subtle, but it's there. His eyes flicker, just for a second, as if weighing whether to go further. And then he does. Because I think we're losing something, he says. In conversations like this, everywhere, we're so focused on being right or being liked that we stop being honest. The audience is completely still. Even the cameras seem to move more carefully, as if not to disturb the moment. Joy's expression shifts, not softening but deepening. There's something reflective there now, something less performative. You think we're not honest here? She asks. Joaquin meets her gaze. I think you're selective. A sharp intake of breath echoes through the room. Joy's eyes narrow slightly. Selective how? With what you push, Joaquin says. With what you let go. With who you challenge and who you don't. Now the tension spikes again, higher than before. One of the co-hosts shifts uncomfortably. Another glances off camera, clearly aware that this is no longer a controlled segment. Joy doesn't break. And you think you'd do it better? She asks. Joaquin shakes his head immediately. No, I think I'd struggle with the same pressures. Then what's your point? Joy presses. Another pause. But this one feels different. He's not hesitating. He's choosing. My point is, maybe we should acknowledge it, he says. Instead of pretending it doesn't exist. The words hang there, simple but loaded. Joy exhales slowly, leaning back again. For the first time, she looks away from Joaquin from the cameras just briefly. When she looks back, something has changed. All right, she says. Let's acknowledge it. The audience shifts, sensing something new. You think we're selective, she continues. Fine. Of course we are. This is television. There are time limits, topics, audiences, sponsors. And expectations, Joaquin adds. Yes, Joy snaps back. Expectations. From viewers, from producers, from the network. You don't get to just ignore that. Joaquin nods. I'm not saying you should. Then what are you saying? She demands. I'm saying those expectations shape the truth, he replies. A beat. And sometimes they distort it. The word distortion lingers, heavy and uncomfortable. Joy's jaw tightens slightly. So now we're distorting the truth? I'm saying it's possible, Joaquin says. Anywhere. Not just here. But you're here, Joy counters. Yes, he agrees. Which is why I'm talking about it. The tension reaches a new level, not explosive, but dense like a storm that hasn't decided whether to break. One of the producers off-camera gestures subtly, clearly signaling for a shift, for a commercial break, for anything to redirect this. But on screen, neither of them moves. Joy leans in again, closer than before. Her voice drops, almost intimate, but there's an intensity behind it that cuts through everything. You know what I think, she says. Joaquin doesn't respond. I think you came here with something to prove, she continues. Not just to us, but to everyone watching. A murmur runs through the audience. Joaquin's expression doesn't change, but something in his eyes flickers. And I think, Joy adds, that's its own kind of performance. That hits. Hard. For the first time, Joaquin doesn't immediately respond. The silence stretches, longer than any before it. The audience leans in, collectively holding its breath. Because now the question isn't just about the show, or the industry. It's about him, Joaquin Phoenix. And whether this, everything he's said, everything he's done in this moment, is as unfiltered as he claims, or just another role. He finally shifts in his seat, his fingers tightening slightly before relaxing again. When he speaks, his voice is quieter than it's been the entire time. Maybe it is, he says. The admission lands like a shockwave. Joy blinks, just once, caught off guard again. But if it is, Joaquin continues, lifting his gaze back to hers, then at least it's a performance that's trying to say something real. The audience exhales almost in unison. Somewhere, a few people begin to clap, hesitantly at first, then more confidently. Not loud, not overwhelming, but enough to break the tension just slightly. Joy watches him, her expression unreadable again. Then slowly she nods. Well, she says, I'll give you this. A pause. You're definitely not boring. A ripple of laughter moves through the room, but it's different now. Less about humor, more about release. Joaquin allows a faint smile this time. I wasn't trying to be, he replies. And yet, as the cameras continue to roll and the studio tries to find its footing again, it's clear to everyone watching. This isn't over. Not even close. Because something has been cracked open on the view. And once that kind of honesty or confrontation breaks through, it doesn't just disappear. The applause fades, but the tension doesn't. It lingers, thick, electric, like the air just before a storm finally breaks. No one in the studio is fully relaxed anymore. Not the audience, not the hosts, not even Joaquin Phoenix. Because something irreversible has already happened. The rhythm of the view has been disrupted. And now, everyone is waiting to see what fills the silence next. Joy Behar leans back, her fingers lightly tapping against the table. It's subtle, almost unnoticeable, but it betrays something beneath her composed exterior. Not nerves exactly, but calculation. She's thinking. And when Joy thinks, she doesn't retreat, she pivots. You know, she says slowly, her voice measured, there's something interesting about what you're doing. Joaquin tilts his head slightly, watching her closely. What's that? You're questioning the system, she continues. The structure, the expectations, the performance of it all. A brief pause. But you've built your entire career inside that system. The words land with precision. The audience reacts instantly, murmurs shifting in seats, a few raised eyebrows. It's not just a response. It's a counterattack. Joaquin doesn't look surprised. If anything, he looks like he was waiting for it. Yeah, he says quietly. I have. Joy leans forward again, her tone sharpening just enough to cut. So, isn't that a contradiction? Another pause. This one feels heavier than the rest. Joaquin's gaze drifts, not away, but inward, as if he's tracing the question back through years of choices, roles, interviews, moments. When he speaks again, his voice carries something different. Not just intensity. Wait. It is, he admits. The audience goes still again. But that doesn't make it meaningless, he adds. Joy's eyes narrow slightly. Explain that. Joaquin shifts in his seat, leaning forward now, mirroring her posture, matching her energy. Just because you're part of something doesn't mean you can't question it, he says. In fact, I think it makes the questions more important. A murmur of agreement ripples through parts of the audience. Joy catches it. She always does. And what exactly are you questioning? She presses. Hollywood? Media? Talk shows? Or just people? All of it, Joaquin replies without hesitation. The bluntness lands like a hammer. One of the co-hosts exhales softly, shaking her head as if trying to process the direction this has taken. Another glances toward the camera with a tight smile, aware that millions are watching something that was never meant to go this far. Joy doesn't look away. And where do you put yourself in that? She asks. Joaquin's answer comes slower this time. I'm part of it, he says, which means I'm part of the problem too. That line hits differently. It disarms. For the first time, the tension doesn't spike, it shifts, becomes something more complex. Less like a battle, more like a confrontation with no clear sides. Joy studies him carefully. There's something new in her expression now, not agreement, not softness, but recognition. You know, she says, most people don't come on this show to dissect themselves like that. Joaquin gives a faint, almost tired smile. Maybe they should. A few quiet laughs echo, but they don't break the mood. Joy shakes her head slightly. Or maybe they come here to connect with people, to share something, not to challenge everything. And you don't think this is connecting? Joaquin asks. The question hangs there. Joy hesitates. Just for a second. Because the truth is, the audience is engaged. Completely. More than usual. More than comfortable. But is that connection? Or confrontation? There's a difference between connection and discomfort, she says finally. Joaquin nods slowly. I think they're closer than we like to admit. The room absorbs that. A man in the front row leans forward, elbows on his knees, completely locked in. A woman near the aisle crosses her arms, her expression conflicted. The energy isn't unified, but it's alive. And that might be the most dangerous thing of all. Joy exhales, then shifts tactics again. Let me ask you something more direct, she says. Joaquin gestures lightly. Go ahead. Do you think people watching right now are better off because of this conversation? She asks. The question cuts deeper than anything before it. Not about performance. Not about media. About impact. Joaquin pauses. This time, the silence stretches longer than any before it. Even the cameras seem to hesitate, lingering on his face, searching for something, certainty, doubt, anything. Finally, he speaks. I don't know, he says. The honesty is immediate, unfiltered. But I think they're thinking, he continues. And that matters. Joy nods slowly, considering that. And if they're not, she challenges. Joaquin meets her gaze. Then at least we didn't pretend. That line lands like a quiet explosion. The audience reacts, not loudly, but deeply. You can feel it more than hear it. Joy leans back again, folding her arms, not defensively, but as if settling into the weight of the moment. "You really believe that, don't you?" she says. Joaquin nods. "Yeah." Another pause. And then, Joy smiles. But it's not the same smile from the beginning. This one is sharper, more knowing. "All right," she says. "Then let's not pretend." The words shift everything again. Because now, it's not just Joaquin pushing the boundaries. Joy is stepping into it. "You want honesty?" she continues. "Here's some." The audience straightens collectively. "I think what you're doing right now," she says, her voice steady, "is walking a very fine line between sincerity and self-indulgence." A ripple of reaction spreads instantly, gasps, murmurs, a few audible wow-s. Joaquin doesn't flinch, but his eyes sharpen. Joy leans in, pressing forward. "It's easy to sit there and question everything," she says. "To challenge systems, expectations, structures. But at some point, it starts to sound like you're elevating your perspective above everyone else's." That lands hard. Harder than anything before. The audience is fully divided now. You can feel it. Some nodding in agreement, others shaking their heads, some just watching, caught in the tension. Joaquin takes a breath. Not defensive. Measured. "I'm not above anyone," he says. "But you're positioning yourself as the one asking the real questions," Joy counters. "As if the rest of us aren't." Joaquin shakes his head slightly. "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" She presses again. The repetition isn't accidental. It's pressure. And this time it works. Joaquin hesitates. A real hesitation. His fingers tap lightly against his knee. His gaze drops for just a fraction of a second before returning to hers. The audience notices. Everyone notices. Because for the first time, he doesn't have an immediate answer. The silence stretches. Uncomfortable. Unresolved. And in that silence, something shifts. Not just in the conversation, but in him. When he finally speaks, his voice is quieter than ever before. "I think," he starts, then stops. Another pause. "I think I'm trying to figure that out." The admission is raw, more vulnerable than anything he's said so far. And it changes the energy completely. The confrontation softens, not into agreement, but into something more human, more uncertain. Joy watches him closely. And for the first time since this began, she doesn't interrupt. Because now this isn't about winning. It's about what comes next. And no one, not the hosts, not the audience, not even Joaquin Phoenix himself, knows what that is. The studio sits in suspended tension, like the air itself is holding its breath. Joaquin Phoenix leans back slightly, the corners of his mouth lifting in a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Joy Behar studies him, her expression a mix of contemplation, challenge, and grudging respect. The audience is on the edge of their seats, leaning forward as if they could physically pull the answers out of the moment. Every eye is fixed on them, every ear waiting for the next word, because something has shifted on the view. Something raw, something real, something unforgettable. The pause stretches, thick and charged, before Joaquin finally speaks, his voice soft but deliberate. "I came here thinking I might stir the pot. But I didn't expect this," he says, gesturing subtly at the room, at the cameras, at the atmosphere. "I didn't expect it to feel so alive." A faint murmur runs through the audience. Some people nod, some whisper to each other. The tension doesn't break, it transforms. Joy tilts her head, leaning closer, her eyes bright, sharp. "Alive?" she asks. "Is that what this is about for you? Just the adrenaline of confrontation?" "No," Joaquin says quickly, shaking his head. "It's more than that. It's the chance to really see, to really listen. Not just play a role, not just answer questions, not just perform for cameras or critics or anyone." He pauses, looking directly at her. "Even you." Joy freezes for a beat, caught off guard. Then she lets out a small, almost amused laugh. "Even me. Even you," he repeats. And there's a quiet intensity in his eyes that makes the room lean in, collectively holding its breath. The audience begins to murmur, sensing the gravity of the exchange. This is no longer a celebrity interview. This is a collision of honesty, ego, truth, and vulnerability, laid bare for everyone to see. The co-hosts glance at each other uneasily, realizing that this is beyond any script, any production plan. "All right, Joaquin," Joy says slowly, her voice measured. "I think we're at a point where we both have to admit something. That this isn't just television. And it never was going to be safe." Joaquin nods, almost solemnly. "Exactly." A beat of silence falls over the studio. And then he leans forward slightly, almost conspiratorially. "The question is, What do we do with it now? With this honesty, Joy's eyes sparkle with a mix of challenge and intrigue. We let people feel it. We let them wrestle with it, just like we're doing right now. The energy in the room shifts yet again. The audience leans in, some clapping quietly, some laughing in nervous exhilaration, all aware that they're witnessing a rare, unfiltered moment. It's not entertainment, it's an encounter, a confrontation, a revelation. Then Joaquin leans back, his voice softening, almost reflective. Maybe this is why people love or fear me, he says. Because I don't fit neatly into the boxes they create. And maybe that's okay. Because real conversations, messy, uncomfortable, unpredictable, those are the ones that matter. Joy nods slowly, a genuine smile breaking through her practiced facade. Maybe, she says, but they're also exhausting. A ripple of laughter moves through the audience, lighter this time, breaking the tension just enough to allow everyone to breathe. The cameras pan across the faces of the viewers, capturing the awe, the confusion, the thrill of the moment. It's a mix of admiration and discomfort, but most of all, it's unforgettable. Joaquin's gaze sweeps the room one last time, a quiet acknowledgement of the exchange, the challenge, the raw honesty that's unfolded. Thank you, he says simply. Joy responds with a subtle nod. You're welcome. But don't think this gets you off easy next time. The audience erupts into applause, louder, more heartfelt, more chaotic than anything staged earlier. People stand, clap, cheer, some even whistling. The energy is electric, almost palpable. Social media will explode with clips of this confrontation within hours, threads debating every glance, every pause, every word. Headlines will call it tense, confrontational, revelatory. Memes will circulate. Opinions will clash. And the conversation won't end. As the cameras cut to commercial, the energy lingers. The hosts gather their composure, the audience murmurs excitedly, but the moment, Joaquin Phoenix challenging Joy Behar, the truth spilling into a daytime studio, is already cemented in memory. And here's the moment for you, the viewer. What did you think of Joaquin's honesty? Was Joy justified in her challenges, or was he right to push the boundaries? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't hold back. Every opinion matters because this isn't just a show. It's a discussion about truth, performance, and courage. If you want more explosive, dramatic, unforgettable moments like this, make sure you subscribe to Stage View. Hit that notification bell, like this video, and be part of the conversation that dares to go beyond the surface. Because here on Stage View, the stories you thought you knew always have more to reveal.